discussion on behalf of the Central Office Wellness Committee. Thank you to Becki Parsons from Becki Parsons Nutrition and Fitness for sharing their information with us. So right away, I'm going to go ahead and give the floor to Becki, although I know we're working with Grace on sharing some slides right now. So I don't know if you want to wait.
Yeah.
It's whenever you want to start.
That's okay. I'll dig in. We don't have a lot of time, and I'm notorious for trying to fit too much in too big of a ship in too small of a bottle. So I'll get rolling. And I sent that over to Grace, so hopefully it'll be up here in just a sec. But yeah, so we're talking about gut health hacks. This is something that I've adapted some snippets out of my Regulate Masterclass, which is a longer gut health class. And we're going to be talking about your responsibilities in terms of nutrition and lifestyle for helping your digestive system be as effective as possible. So you have 3 jobs primarily, and those are to stimulate the digestive system and therefore all your digestive juices, to support healthy gut bacteria balance, and everybody's favorite thing to talk about, schlooping the poop. Schloop is a very technical term that I have come up with, but it seems to be appropriate for keeping things moving. So we're going to talk about the different things you can do nutritionally, and in the sense that they are hacks. It's not a word that I love. I think it gets overused a lot in the world, but the things that are like really simple, big bang for your buck type changes, like these little swaps can make a big difference, especially if you're having trouble. And so please ignore the antics of my feline friend back here. That's what I'm giggling at. He's messing with my curtains and everything. So it is what it is. So when it comes to stimulating your digestion, oh, here is our PowerPoint. So we'll hop on slide 2 is what I just covered, where I talked about our 3 jobs. So we'll go on to stimulating digestive enzymes. So, and digestive juices. So digestion starts and is facilitated by a whole variety of digestive juices. Super fun term, right? Gut health is fun to talk about. But they start with saliva, it goes into stomach acid, goes into bile, and all these different juices are full of enzymes, which are basically scissors that snip apart the things that you eat into individual molecules and chemicals that can be absorbed and utilized by your body. So it's really important that we're getting enough of those. And a lot of the problems that we see are from not having enough digestive juices and enzymes. And this can include even things which might seem like maybe I have too much, like, for example, stomach acid. When people have heartburn, very often it's actually rooted in low stomach acid, not in high stomach acid. The reason for that is when food goes into the stomach, and the stomach's trying to break things apart, but if there's not enough stomach acid, we haven't stimulated enough of the digestive juices and the digestive process, we end up having food sit there and stay there for way too long because it's taking too long to turn it from a solid into a liquid, which is the stomach's job. And so we get more essentially fermenting, belching, a lot of acid splashing up into the esophagus while we're trying to get that thing broken down and moved along. But if we had enough stomach acid to begin with, we might actually do better. So a lot of times when we get on these like PPI, these acid inhibiting medications, they reduce our kind of artificially reduce our symptom, but worsen the root problem. So what we want to do is tell our body, hey, it is digestion time. We want to be breaking things down. So you can stimulate this in a variety of ways. And one is by shifting your nervous system into the right side of the spectrum. We have our sympathetic nervous system, which is our fight and flight, and we have our parasympathetic, which is our rest and digest. And that tells your body, there's a lot to it, but in short, it tells your body where to send resources and where to focus. And this is why like parents tell kids don't go swimming until 20 minutes after you eat. That's because when you exercise, you're stimulating the fight and flight sympathetic, the exercise, that kind of thing, and you're sending resources to the muscles. When you are in the parasympathetic is when you're digesting. So if you eat something and send it to the parasympathetic to digest, and then you immediately go exercise, you're going to get stomach cramping and or muscle cramping because your body's trying to split resources like blood and oxygen and nutrients between your digestive system and your muscles, and neither one is getting all they need to do their best job. So we want to tell the body, hey, we want parasympathetic, and this can be really big, and this is one of the big ways that stress impacts digestion, because stress stimulates our fight or flight, and we want to get out of that and into parasympathetic when we're eating so that we can fully stimulate all the digestive process. So one quick hack, 60 to 120 seconds or 1 to 2 minutes of vagal nerve stimulation. The vagus nerve is the nerve that sort of triggers the parasympathetic side of things. So the things over here that you can do are things like humming, singing, laughing, or the most applicable one in most situations is deep ribcage expanding breathing, because you're not being obnoxious at the lunch break table with all your coworkers or whatever. So basically, this is anything that you would not be able to do if you were being chased by a tiger. Your body knows, like if you were highly in stress and needed to run from a tiger and it wanted to be in the sympathetic, you would be breathing way up here in your chest, nice short breaths. Not so nice actually, but that tells it stress response. Deep rib cage expansion breathing, you wouldn't be doing that if you were needing to use your muscles in fight or flight. So that tells it, hey, we're safe, we're good, we can be more into the parasympathetic than the sympathetic. Also, and the humming, the vocal vibrations is what stimulates humming and singing and laughing. Vocal vibrations stimulates the parasympathetic. This is why you'll see in some practices like chanting, and things like that. It's stimulating the vagus nerve and therefore the parasympathetic, pulling us out of the stress response and into the parasympathetic. It's a very restorative side of our nervous system. So it's where we want to live most of the time, but a lot of us spend too much time on the sympathetic side of things. Tart to start is another hack. Something that's tart that makes your tongue do that little like crampy thing back here. That is really waking up the digestive system. And what you're feeling with that crampiness is the very first digestive juice, saliva. Your salivary glands are going, oh my goodness, something's coming. And they send out a bunch of saliva that also triggers the whole rest of the system. So if you start off with something really tart, something pickled, something fermented, like lemons or limes, very tart mandarins, tart cherries. They sell digestive bitters for this purpose. That is really stimulating to the whole digestive process. So if you start with something tart, a salad with a pretty tart vinaigrette on it does the job, or if you pickled vegetables, you'll notice some cultures have this as a practice. They always start with a small bit of pickled vegetables. Korean culture does that really commonly. I always forget the word for it, but they have these little bites of fermented things they start with, or kimchi or something before they go in. This is a brilliant practice for stimulating digestion. And also, side benefit, if you have vinegar involved, that's also going to help buffer your blood sugar response. So you can get multiple, with pickled things or with a vinegar itself, you can get blood sugar benefits as well. Last thing, the act of chewing is stimulating to all the digestive juices. So chewing things really thoroughly to applesauce consistency, 2 benefits here. 1, the more chewing you do, the more you tell your brain that the rest of your digestive system needs to be ready. 2, the more you break down solids to liquids up here, the less work your stomach has to do, the less chance of fermenting, the less chance of heartburn, the less chance of things that are not fully digested making it into the intestines and causing you more fermentation, bloating, gas, diarrhea, constipation, and irritation in the lower GI. So the more work of breakdown you can get done here, the less the rest of your system has to do. A lot of times, scary often, all I have to work with people on is chewing to applesauce consistency to improve a huge amount of their digestive symptoms. Everyone's different, there's different reasons, but that's often a big one. Next slide. So our next job is going to be supporting healthy gut bacteria balance. And we want to invite in good guys with probiotic containing foods. Probiotics, you probably heard that before, and most of you probably know those are foods that contain healthy gut bacteria that are beneficial to our digestion, and we need them. They break down foods that our bodies are not capable of breaking down. So for our hack for this, 1 serving of a fermented food daily. I've listed some examples there of more commonly known ones. There's lots that are more unique to different cultures that are not as available here or as well known, but these are the most common ones that people end up choosing. I want to be clear here that this is it's not necessarily always beneficial to bring in probiotic supplements. They're in such high amounts and so consistently that if we're taking them daily, then we can actually end up with problems of overpopulation of good guys. So then we end up with over fermentation, bloating, diarrhea, constipation, all of the lower GI upset. If we have too many gut bacteria, even if they're beneficial strains, we just can't house them all. So it's not necessarily a good idea to just always throw a probiotic supplement in there. When I'm running comprehensive gut health tests and looking at people's gut bacteria, sometimes we just see this huge overpopulation of good guys because they've been on these probiotic supplements for however long. We take them off and things actually improve when their body can actually get back into a balance. So providing probiotic foods on a regular basis is a great amount for maintenance. Whether or not to take or not take a probiotic supplement has to be individualized. Somebody asked, what's ACV with mother? I'm sorry, I should have written this out. Apple cider vinegar with the mother. So apple cider vinegar by itself, you can find just at the store in most of the like store brands, is not going to contain the mother, which is actually the bacterial culture that makes the vinegar and is the beneficial probiotic. Most of the time in like the cheaper store brands, those have been pasteurized out. So you want one that says contains the mother. And that is your key to knowing there's probiotics contained within that apple cider vinegar. So we get our probiotics. We also want our prebiotics. So the prebiotics are the things that the healthy bacteria eat. So we want to keep them really happy. They eat fiber. Fiber is in plant foods. We need a whole variety of different plant foods, and they also thrive off of what's called polyphenols, which are just different nutrients that exist only in plants. And they need both fiber and polyphenols to survive well. So this hack, and it doesn't seem like a hack at first glance, I'll show you on the next slide, 30 plus different plant foods per week. And that seems like a lot, but herbs and spices count. Even small amounts matter because these bacteria are not big. They don't need a ton. They don't need what you and I need. They just need little bits. So it's not as hard as it sounds, and it serves another purpose we'll come back to on our third point. So next slide, I'll just show you quickly. I'm not going to go through it in detail. Go back one. There we go. This is a day of showing a variety of different plant foods or some examples of breakfasts and lunches that contain a whole variety of different plant foods. Even, you're putting oregano in your scramble, that counts. Hot sauces, peppers, like you're getting different plant foods from all these different things. Grains, veggies, fruits, beans, lentils, spices, herbs, and they all have really beneficial polyphenols. Next slide. Okay, our last thing, schloop the poop. So we want a combination of soluble and insoluble fibers. So insoluble fibers are forming the bulk of your stool. So if you're struggling with just not going often enough, then you probably need more insoluble fibers. If you feel like you need to go on a regular basis, but oh my gosh, here comes my cat, sorry. If you feel like you need to go but struggle to make it happen, you might need more soluble fibers. Insoluble fibers are bulking and drying. Soluble fibers are gelling. They're soluble with water and they form kind of that nice schloop that makes things slide. So you need a combination of both. Different fruits and vegetables contain different amounts. What's considered often enough? That's a great question. So what's normal varies a lot, but anywhere from 3 times a day to once every 2 to 3 days is normal. However, it is optimal to try to get one every day if possible for detox benefits, reducing colon cancer, lowering cholesterol. There's a lot of benefits to going more often, but it is normal to go several times a day, up to once every 2 or 3 days. Oh, there's a link to some ACV. Excellent. So the good thing about the combo of soluble and insoluble fibers, that's plant foods. 30 plus plant foods is probably going to have you covered. If you're doing your 30 plus plant foods, you're covering this as well. The last thing is hydration, 64 to 80 ounces of sugar and alcohol-free fluid daily. Sugar and alcohol are dehydrating, so if your fluid contains that, I don't count it. Otherwise, you can count fluid even if it's not just water towards this. The reason for this is if you get plenty of soluble fiber and not enough fluid, think about anything you know that gels up, like Jello or anything. If you don't put enough water in it, it's thick. It's really thick and it doesn't do its schloopy thing that we want. It could actually make it tougher. So if you have your soluble fibers coming in, you need enough hydration to gel up with those and keep things moving. And that, if you go to the next slide, I just have a summary of our hacks. So 60 to 120 seconds or 1 to 2 minutes of vagal nerve stimulation before eating, something tart to start, chewed applesauce consistency, 1 serving of fermented food daily, 30 plus different plant foods weekly, all your herbs and spices and everything count towards that, and then 64 to 80 ounces of sugar and alcohol-free fluid a day. These things can massively turn around your digestion in many, many cases. On the next slide, and the last thing, I know we're tight here. 15 minutes is so short for me. I'm too long-winded for these. If you have lingering gut-related symptoms, if you have improved on those or even implemented them partially, you're doing way better than most people. Those are not necessarily things that we have going on a regular basis for most people. But if you implement a lot of those things and you still have any of these symptoms, they can all be gut health related. You can schedule an appointment with a functional dietitian or a functional doctor to get a comprehensive functional gut health test. I use one called the GI map that tells us everything good, bad, and ugly in terms of the bacteria, also protozoa, worms, parasites, and also how are your digestive enzymes doing? Is there inflammation? Is your gut-brain barrier compromised? We get a whole bunch of information and give us a direction to go. So if you have tried all these things and you're still stuck and you're still suffering, go find the answers because they do exist, and most standard doctors don't run these functional tests. I didn't even know about them until a couple of years ago. I was pretty mad to find out they existed and I didn't know after 10 years of being a dietitian. So that's it. Last slide just has my website, my contact info, my Instagram and social medias and all that jazz. So yeah, thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it. Thanks for hanging around for 3 extra minutes. I can't stay in 15 minutes. I'm sorry. Let's see. Did I miss any questions? Yeah, Grace had to hop out. Oh, and I missed her question. Bummer. As that way, stress is one of the reasons for weight gain. There's a whole lot of factors in that, but it can be stress really impacts digestion. Not digesting and absorbing well can freak your body out a little bit, and it's very inflammatory. All of those things can contribute to weight gain, and there's a bunch of other reasons too. Any other questions? I've got time. Feel free to hop off if you guys have to go.
Fibers and blueberries, some.
That's why weight gain, because people bring in blueberry muffins.
That's one of the hard parts about being in office, right? Everybody brings in their like leftover sweets and things.
Tasty things. Yeah.
Exactly.
Do I ever check for H. pylori? Yeah, that's on my comprehensive gut health test, and that's probably the most common problem I see. I think the last statistic I heard was that about 60% of US adults have it, people who come to me looking for a test are obviously suffering, so I have a biased sample, but I'd say it's like 80% of the GI maps that I run are positive for H. pylori. Not all of them have enough of a growth of H. pylori that it would show up on a standard test. So the GI map is a PCR amplification test, so it's really, really sensitive, and so we'll catch it sometimes sooner or at lower amounts. So a lot of times they'll go get like LabCorp with their doctor, and that one's just, it's not an amplification test, so there's not enough to always show up. But I see it really commonly, and it passes through saliva, so that's why everybody's got it. You share drinks, you kiss people, you know, it's like, and we're all just passing it around. It's everywhere. So yeah, I definitely test for and treat H. pylori. Yeah. Are the tests billed through insurance? Is a referral normally required? So if you're interested in a comprehensive gut health test, sadly, the reason why doctors don't even know about functional testing or dietitians in our schooling, which is the first question I asked, I said, why are these tests not provided? Like, why did I not even know about them? And it's because insurance doesn't pay for them, which is just absolute baloney. People should have the opportunity to pay out of pocket if they desire to for these things. I was so angry to discover that that's why I wasn't even told. And I had so many clients who could have benefited from these tests that didn't get the chance because I didn't know. So it's all out of pocket. They are not cheap. They're comprehensive. They test a lot of things. They're home collection. So the GI map is a stool home collection. And if you have an insurance that covers the appointments, which if you have Regents Uniform and Kaiser PPO, then they cover my appointments. So all the appointments to review your results and stuff are covered. At that point, the test itself and the interpretation are $500. So they are not cheap, but they are available to you if you are suffering. We can get to the bottom of it. So, okay.
So I'm going to go ahead and do our spiel, but still leave an opportunity if others want to stick on and have any questions. I know for me, this was really interesting. So it's like, I wish I had more than 15 minutes to learn more from you, but definitely going to link up on Instagram and start following you just to have your information and whatnot. So thank you, Becki, for your time. And of course, if you want to stay on and continue talking with Becki, as long as she's available, you can. The next session is today's online wellness fair. Already started 2 minutes ago, and that's actually Grace, who's going to be talking about the Veterans In-State Service Shared Leave Program, which we call VISL. So we would love any feedback you'd like to give at this or any time about any of our sessions or any of our wellness fair activities. So here's a link to that feedback form. Any participation is greatly appreciated. Becki, even if you want to go ahead and sign on and provide some feedback as a vendor, that would be great. Other than that, thank you again so much, Becki, and look forward to seeing you at future fairs. And thank you, everybody.
Thank you for having me.
Have
Thank
a
you.
good day.
Bye.